The Queen dominating the front pages this morning. Pictured at yesterday's memorial service for Prince Philip. It was fantastic that she could be there, but lots of questions being asked about her decision to have Prince Andrew having such a key role, escorting his mother to and from Westminster Abbey. Well, as the Mirror puts it, the pain and the stain. That's not a headline you want to see, is it? Royal editor Russell Myers is here. Now, Russell, right up until the last minute, we didn't know whether she was going to make it, and it was fantastic that she was well enough to go. But lots of people saying, why did she have Andrew escorting her in? What's going on here, do you think?
I mean, what is going on? Because we weren't told that the Queen was going to attend up to, about 2 hours before she did attend. And I think that, bringing it back to Her Majesty's health, she's been very frail of late. She's got certain mobility issues which are well publicised at the moment. And how it's been put to me is she has good days and less good days. So might be all right one day and then doesn't want to get out of bed because of mobility issues the next day. However, I mean, the sort of rumours started filtering down that Prince Andrew was going to get in the car with her, travel for Windsor. I don't think anyone thought that was too out of the ordinary because they live pretty much next door to each other on the Windsor estate. However, when they got to the Abbey and he then is walking her into the church, essentially, I think there were a lot of eyebrows raised. And then when you looked at the order of service, he was supposed to be sitting with his daughters behind the Queen, with Beatrice and Eugenie, and then he was sort of front and centre. I mean, look at the front pages today and look at the coverage.
That's true.
It's absolutely extraordinary.
Russell, it should be more about her being there, more about a tribute to her husband, her late husband, but it's all about him. It's all about Andrew. Now, does this mean he's rehabilitated?
Well, I think he has been pushing himself as he always has done. I mean, we know about his character. It's been well publicised about his arrogance and how he's been perceived for over many, many years. However, as you rightly say, this should have been about the Queen. It should have been about the Duke of Edinburgh. We hark back to the funeral last year, which was just 30 mourners because of the COVID restrictions. And what are we talking about? We're talking about the Duke of York, who, let's not forget, has just reached this £12 million settlement with his sex abuse accuser. He had always denied those allegations, so I think that this is the Queen standing by him and saying, he hadn't admitted any wrongdoing in what he'd done. That situation has potentially gone now. But let's not make any bones about it. He'd been forced to step back from royal duties. There was a reason for that, but this was classed, even though there were 1,800 people at the Abbey, this was classed as sort of a private family event.
It's his father, and nobody is saying that he should not be there, but she's got 2 other sons, and also she has a daughter. Well, and I think it would have been rather lovely if Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, would have come down.
I totally agree with you. I think that why wasn't that part of the course, that Princess Anne didn't walk her in? So there'd been Operation Abbey, they dubbed it, that the Queen didn't necessarily have to walk up Westminster Abbey, the sort of long gangway, coming into the side entrance, didn't have too much a long way to walk to get to her seat. And yet, Prince Andrew was right there, the cameras were on him, then he was sitting in the front row. I mean, we were talking last week about this series of PR disasters for the royal family, and I'm sorry to say, I think this is an absolutely another huge one that they've got to tackle.
But that would have been the Queen's decision. Interestingly, looking at it, she did obviously look completely grief-stricken. It was a very emotional day. Lots of symbolism as well, as there always is at these royal events.
There was,
all the women, most of the women wearing green.
They were, because this is Duke of Edinburgh's colour. His livery is in green. It's called Edinburgh Green. The Queen was also wearing a brooch that Philip gave her over 50 years ago. Camilla was wearing the Rifles brooch after she took over the Rifles from the Duke of Edinburgh. I mean, even to little details like the flowers. They had orchids in it, which was part of her wedding bouquet, and some sea holly, which I didn't really know what it was, but sea holly is sort of a nod to his naval days. So lots of symbolism throughout the whole service. However, again, it's kind of been lost because of what we're talking about Prince Andrew, and I think that's a real shame, to be honest.
No, it really is, and we said it was, it's a big event, it's a huge event, but it is essentially a family event. And as you said, the contrast between the funeral when she was on her own and the fact that all of the family, well, not quite all, because I must admit, up until the very, very last minute, I thought, do you know what, maybe Prince Harry will just come over, for goodness sake. I think he's going to really regret this, Russell, because he's not going because he says he doesn't feel safe. For goodness sake, they're in Westminster Abbey. Can you imagine how many beefy SAS people are in there looking after the Queen and all it just seems really just a shame.
Well, that isn't the only thing, because in a couple of weeks he's going to be in the Netherlands for the Invictus Games. Fantastic event that he's been putting on for many years.
But is he safer there than Westminster Abbey?
Well, again, this is the issue. I mean, he would have been afforded security had he come over for a big family event.
Of course he would.
He's put himself into a difficult position because of this row with the Home Office about his taxpayer-funded security, which has been taken away. He wasn't necessarily prepared to bring his private-funded security over to the UK. So, yeah, it's a big issue for him. I think he will live to regret that decision, because a lot of the family were rallying around the Queen. You look at the pictures and the images yesterday, she looked absolutely grief-stricken.
Of course she did.
You go back to the funeral, only 30 mourners. The enduring image of the coronavirus crisis for me was her sitting on her own.
Yes,
I mean, you
definitely.
Look at her there, it's just...
Well, they were all having parties in Downing Street, which is yet another issue, which is making the front pages today as well as that. So all kind of, it's circles within circles, isn't it? It's very interesting. You look, though, to the future, and I mean, we saw the tour was not a success for Kate and William, but obviously they're there with their children. Again, that's sort of sending out a message, isn't it?
It is. I mean, looking forward, I mean, I think there will be an inquiry about the last week's tour. There were some good parts, some not so good parts. We're talking about imagery as well, and yesterday was one of those bad points, and that they will have to tackle. But the future royals, I mean, we're seeing them before our very eyes, obviously growing up, but really being put front and centre now. This was a real big opportunity for them. Georgia looked a little bit nervous, but Charlotte staring down the barrel of every camera. And they are the future. There is a new monarchy emerging, and I think that is an unfortunate sort of throwback that Prince Andrew is associated with the Duke of Edinburgh
He's very much the past.
He is. I mean, he may think that he has a chance to, get to the fore of the Jubilee celebrations. But I think, again, they will be looking at some unwelcome headlines, the sentiment behind that, and they will... there's no chance of him coming back.
I just always go back to what I've said for years, is who is advising them?
Yeah, well, that's a big question.
Advises them? That's the thing. They need somebody who really knows what they're doing and has got a sort of common touch, perhaps, and that knows what goes down well and what doesn't. They should know that, though. Anyway, that's a whole other discussion. Russell, thank you so much for that insight. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And, despite it all, despite the Andrew, despite everything, it was great that the Queen was well enough to go.
Very much so.
Don't forget, you can watch full episodes of Lorraine on the ITV Hub, and all the best clips, compilations and playlists right here on our channel. Just subscribe now and you'll never miss an upload. Click here to watch another video similar to this one, or click here to head to our channel's homepage to explore all of our exciting videos.